Riders ready. They're all just kidding. Go.
Hey there, my name's Taylor, and this is a recap of the TurboVelo Tuesday Night Crit in Richardson, Texas on May 21st, 2024. So here we are at the start of the C race. This is the Cat 4-5 race, and the field is about 40 or 50 people tonight. We've got 48 to be exact, and that's a lot of riders, but that's been the theme of the beginning of the season here. We've got lots of riders and lots of people, or lots of teams represented with a lot of riders in each team. So that makes the strategy a little interesting for me as a rider who's not on a team, and also someone who's not super comfortable riding in such a big group when we're going 4 and 5 riders around the corner. So that's been a struggle to deal with this season compared to the end of last season when we had races with like 15 people. So it's a lot different vibe, and the race strategy turns out to be a lot different as well. Last week I felt like the race was really fast, and this week it was really fast again, but as you can see on the lap counter, it only goes up to 3 laps, so we'll get to that in a minute. But some exciting things happened in this race, and this is just the first part of it, so we're going to skip ahead a bit actually. The wind was out of the south today, which is on the right now, and this happened to me multiple times where I was just literally coasting up the inside coming into this corner. You could see I was at actual 0 watts. I wasn't pedaling. Made up, I don't know, 5 or 10 wheels, and then around this corner, people love to smash it for some reason, but today with the wind at our backs, it was relatively easier for me to keep up with the people that really like to hammer on this part. So felt good gaining a bunch of wheels and then staying in place and not just drifting right back again after that. This is a good example of where I'm trying to be in the course of this race. I want to be in the middle, both front to back and left to right. So if you look in the rear view, you can see there's tons of riders behind me. There's tons of riders in front of me. There's people on my left. There's people on my right. This means I'm super sheltered, and I don't have to put down as many watts to stay with the pace of the group, which is really useful, I mean, for everybody, but particularly for me because I haven't been able to train as much recently. And so my mindset going into these races is assume I'm the weakest rider here. What can I do, not to win, I don't think I'm going to win these races, but to place well, do better than I would otherwise. Because if I come out here and ride stupidly, I'll end up eating a bunch of wind and working super hard, wearing myself out and placing terribly. So I want to try to save as much energy as possible, and key way for me to do that is to be in the middle of the group. But it gets a little dicey. Again, for me, like not being super confident, because you have to be not like aggressive to ride right in the middle of the group, but you have to be comfortable with somebody immediately on your left, immediately on your right, and be right on the wheel in front of you. That's something I haven't done super well these past couple of weeks that I'm trying to get better at. Is like, you can see the gap to the rider in front of me right now. I really need to be right on that guy's wheel, like, you know, maybe a foot away or something like that, but I'm half a bike length. I'm closing it now, thankfully. I'm doing that thing again where I'm coasting into this corner and making a couple of wheels, but I was trying in this race to be closer to the person in front of me rather than leaving a gap and just making it harder on myself. So this is where the race starts to get interesting. You can see the race director there on the side holding a bullhorn that is making a siren, and what happened here is that before the race started, while everyone was out here warming up, there was a pedestrian on the course just walking, and I didn't see it happen, but a cyclist, I think, collided with a pedestrian. I'm not sure who was at fault. I haven't heard the whole story, but there was a collision between a pedestrian and a cyclist. And I think maybe the cyclist ended up with a concussion. But again, if anyone knows for sure what happened, please leave it in the comments or let me know. I want to know. But ultimately, an ambulance was called, and that came out to the course. The race director thought that the ambulance was going to go to the parking lot, which isn't on the course, but they came out to the course itself, so he had to neutralize the race so that the ambulance could take care of whoever it was. I don't know if it was the cyclist or the pedestrian or some other thing that happened, but there was an ambulance on the course, and that's why we had to be neutralized. So for this lap and the next lap, we were neutralized, and then they actually stopped us entirely, and then we restarted. There's the ambulance on the left. This was actually the first time in the race that I saw it. before this point, I had no idea what was going on. I had never been in a race that had been neutralized before, so I thought, why are we still rolling around? Why don't they just stop us? What's going on here? And seeing that answered a few questions in my mind, but I did still wonder, why haven't they just stopped the race to let this get sorted out and then restart the race? And eventually we do that. So this was just a couple neutral laps to roll around and keep people warm, I suppose. So here we are at the end of that second neutral lap, and the race director is actually stopping the field, and we're getting, all lined up again to restart the race, essentially. And he also takes a couple seconds here to explain to us what happened, and so answers a few questions there. And here we are just a few minutes later when the race starts back up again. So at this point, I didn't actually know how long we would be racing, because we had just ridden around for like 10 minutes, and it's normally a 30-minute race. So I didn't know if we were going to do a 30-minute race or a 20-minute race. And ultimately we ended up doing around a 30-minute race. So it was the original, time. We just kind of threw away everything that happened before that. But I didn't know at this point, and so ultimately it doesn't affect my strategy. My strategy is the same: try to hang with the group as much as I can, but it still would have been nice to know if we're riding around for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Moving up on the right now is my brother Rusty. So if you ever see him or me out, come say hi. We'll always be wearing that same jersey. But he's moving up on the right. If you watched last week's video, you know that normally he's been trying to tail gun this season, but today he tried to do something different to be closer to the front of the pack for more of the race, because he felt like tail gunning was spending too much energy, because he'd have to close down gaps over and over again and spend a match each time in order to do that. So he wanted to stay closer to the front of the race in order to have a higher average power but less spiky. And then, so this is another exciting thing that happened during the race, which is the ambulance was on the course while we were racing for 2 more laps, or for this lap and 1 more lap. And this was unexpected. Again, I had never seen anything like this before, didn't know what was happening, and wasn't sure if we were stopping again or if we're going to neutralize the race again. Turns out, no, we didn't. We're just going to keep doing it, and during that section, there's an ambulance on the road, so go around them. But really bizarre. Haven't experienced anything like that before, and hopefully I don't again. Hopefully no more ambulances come out. Here it is a lap later. Ambulance is still there. It's gone after this lap, but I feel like that really put me on edge for the rest of the race. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but my mindset was something weird has happened already. So that means something weird will probably happen during this race, like somebody will be sketched out and ride weirdly and cause a crash, or I don't know, just people may not be in the right mind. So that put me on edge for the race. So I was trying to be mindful of that and give people space, not squeeze people out on corners, not ride too close to people in the pack. But obviously, like I said earlier, that's going against my strategy here of I want to be in the middle of the group and I want to be right on the wheel of the person in front of me. But that's hard to do when you feel like things are sketchy. So that was difficult for this race. I was finding myself in this position a lot where, again, the wind is coming from the south, so on the right side of the screen right now, I would be eating this crosswind during this little section, and I guess I was okay with doing that because I kept doing it over and over again. It wasn't worth the effort to maneuver back to the inside, but honestly I felt like it wasn't that big a deal. You're not going headwind, just crosswind. Shout out to, I think this is Jeremy here, who gave me a thumbs up on camera. I always appreciate people recognizing me and getting a call out here on the YouTube channel. So nice job racing, Jeremy. I saw you placed super well. That's a great job, and thanks for giving me a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Oh man, you can see up to over 700 watts here just trying to hang with the group around this S corner. I say that people like to hammer it on the straightaway here that we're going into right now, but really it's this whole section. People are just on the gas, and my goal for this is to spend the least amount of energy possible to stay with the group. So I'm putting 400 watts down, and you can see how big the gap is in front of me. I'm not doing a good job closing it down, but it's just a huge amount of effort to hang with this pack. It's moving so fast these past couple weeks. This is the start of a preem. You can see we're going 31 miles an hour, crazy fast. Also, my heart rate is almost at the max, 180. I think my max is around 186, somewhere up there. And I am like almost gassed, but doing my best to try to stay with the group here. I am not going to try to chase down people going for the preem, but I want to hang with the group. So like if a breakaway forms, I'm happy to be in the chase group, but if the whole peloton stays together, I want to be in the mix there. So you can see putting down a huge amount of power here, and also going straight into a headwind right here. I really want to be behind somebody so that I'm not working hard to beat the wind. And so that like pushes me really fast into the back of this group, and then I have to slow down a little bit, and like not ideal, but better than eating the wind for the whole straightaway, I think. I am just barely hanging on here. I am near my max heart rate, and the group is still going fast. This is the end of that preem lap, and you can see there's only, I think, 3 riders behind me. So I'm at the very back of the group, and I know from past experience that if I don't latch on to the back of this group, the race is over for me. And this is lap 7, I think. We have 4 laps to go. So like I need to get onto this group in front of me. Otherwise I'm going to be pedaling by myself for 4 laps. And I am trying so hard to get there, and the gap is just not closing, or not closing as fast as I want. This rider goes around my left. Fortunately, I'm able to latch on to them, and they're able to catch up to the group, so that kind of like dragged me along. So that worked out in my favor. But if you like, I have learned that if I'm in that situation where it's toward the end of the race and the group is riding away from me, I have to do everything I can to catch up to the group. Otherwise, the race is already over for me. And so like I might as well burn the match there, if that makes sense. So the bad news for me is that I never really got back into the group. I just kept dangling off of the back. And again, that's not that I wasn't trying to close down this gap, I just couldn't. The group was moving too fast and I was too tired. So you can see like I'm straggling behind the stragglers here, and the group is riding away. So this race is over for me at this point. I know that it is, and the best thing that I can do is just try to catch the group before they round the corner. I don't think it's especially likely. You can see how big this gap is, but again, like I have to dump the tank. I have to try, because if I don't, the race is over. And I think right about here, I start to realize it's hopeless. You know, I'm completely gassed, and I just, okay, stop pedaling for a minute, try to catch my breath, and admit that the race is over for me. I am huffing and puffing here, trying to recover after that effort of failing to catch the group. But you can see that like I'm still doing 200 watts, which isn't a bunch, but I'm going 10 miles an hour slower at least than the group does on this section. So like that's why I was trying so hard to latch on, because the group just moves so much faster. And if I was in the group, I would be putting down 200 watts, but I'd be going 10 miles an hour faster, which is nuts. Shout out to these volunteers that are blocking traffic and also cheering me on every single lap. I know that I'm not at the front of the race, so they don't really need to cheer for me, but it's always nice when people are cheering for you anyway. Definitely makes it more fun than a training ride, so thanks y'all. These other lapped riders came up behind me because I was going so slow, and fortunately I was able to latch on and get a little bit of a break, a little reprieve from just time trialing. But yeah, it's always nice either when somebody comes up behind you or you come up behind somebody else and you're able to work together, even for a little bit. Like just a quarter of a lap makes a big mental difference to be like, okay, yeah, that was a nice break. Unfortunately, the break doesn't last super long for me. I get dropped from those riders as well. And if you look at the lap times, you can see that my 8th lap was like a minute slower than the fastest, and then this one is maybe 20 seconds faster than that. And that's because the 8th lap is the one where I got dropped and I had to like basically stop pedaling for a little while just to recover. And then the 9th lap was mostly a time trial. So the difference between like me going right at the limit of my heart rate or exertion is, you know, I can do around a 3-minute lap, and riding with the group at a much lower level of exertion, I can do, well, not, you know, I can't do, we can do a 2-minute, 20-second lap. So that's 40 seconds difference of riding with the group versus not riding with the group. Oh, hey, it's the rider that dropped me just like 30 seconds ago. I come back around them. So, you know, it's like a leapfrog here. So I'm not sure why that happens. I feel like some people are more bursty with their power, and I guess like me, I'm a little bit more endurance. So I'm just like, yeah, I'll heads down and do 200 some odd watts for the whole lap. Some people put more power down at different parts, but it's just funny to be passed by somebody and then pass them again in the same race. We're going around the penultimate corner here on the last lap for me. I'm well behind the lead. I ended up finishing 38th out of 48 starters in this race, so not the absolute back of the pack, but pretty far back there. And I averaged around like 220 watts or 240 if you want to do normalized power. But either way, I'm really happy with my performance in this race. I'm out here. I know I'm not going to win, but I'm just trying to have fun and honestly like get a good workout in. And I have a great time out here. Like I've said, I appreciate the people on the sides cheering and all the other riders out here that make it fun and interesting. And looking forward to doing it again next week. Hope to see y'all out there.